to Life Transitions Radio Talk Show with yours truly, Coach Latoya, here on WDRB Media, the voice of the community. Happy Saturday, y'all. I hope you've been having a great month of June. We are already halfway through the month. And can we take just a quick second, y'all, and say Happy Father's Day? Happy Father's Day to all of our fathers out there. Some of our, single fathers out there doing it by themselves, our fathers that are holding it down for the household. I know that people joke and say Father's Day is like the number 25th, holiday on the list of ranking holidays. However, fathers are so important to all of us, right? Whether kids, adult kids, young kids, they're just important to have in the family. So do want to say happy Father's Day to all of our dads out there. So and make it special, y'all. Don't go get them a tie and some socks, okay? Go get your daddy something good, okay? So welcome to the show today. Y'all know I have a bias, and because I'm a rattler from Florida, I do have a little bit of a bias, but I happen to know some really cool people that have some really cool things that they can share with you. So today I am very excited to have somebody I look up to as a mentor. Honestly, over the years, he has poured into me and into my life, into a lot of things that I have been successful with. He has been a part of. And so this is definitely special to have him on air. So if you could, please help me welcome to Life Transitions Radio Talk Show, Norris Wright. Hey, Norris.
Right. Thank you, Latoya. That was very kind, and feelings mutual. Shout out to you for everything you have going on and all the very important and substantive work you're doing. I watched the podcast, and I think I get something out of all of the interviews, so I know your viewers are as well. So salute to you and the awesome work you're doing and going to continue to do.
Thank you. I definitely appreciate it. So Norris, if you could tell us just a little bit of background. So today's show, y'all, we're going to really dive into finances and talking about money and talking about investment. And if you are not aware, I want to say, in the recent years, we have heard that the Black community, the Black dollar, in 2053, I think that's the year that they're projecting that the Black dollar is going to be worth zero, right? It's going to have a net worth of zero. So today is going to be important because we're talking about finances, we're talking about investing, and we're not talking about people that's got a whole lot of money, right? We're talking about using the money that you currently have, in order to build some wealth, right? To build something for yourself and for your family. So Norris has done some things that I'd love for him to share. But before we go there, Norris, tell us a little bit of background of how you were introduced to different finance or investment strategies, and just even the topic in general.
Yeah, sure. So just to start about like the passion, right? It's got to be something that people are interested in. And I can honestly say, going back to when I was a kid in Brooklyn, I had a business, right? I used to collect beer bottles, soda bottles, and whatever bottle. And my mother would take me to the grocery store, and I would, exchange the bottles for a nickel, I think, at that time. And I was doing that 5, 6 years old. By the second grade, I was sweeping the school bus for $2 a week, right? By middle school, I was selling lollipops, So for me, I didn't know it was finance, but I just always had an interest and passion about money and trying to get something. And frankly, Latoya, growing up poor as I did, I always wanted more. So as I got older and would see things, it just became, an opportunity to listen if somebody was teaching something or I was watching an interview. And before you know it, by the time I was at Santa Fe Community College, I was a communications major, and I had to take a macroeconomics course as a prerequisite for the communications program at the time. I thought I was transferring to UF and University of Florida and just do that. But I actually fell in love with the macroeconomics course so much, it actually made me ask the question, what if I change my major or actually before that, maybe I should take another business course to see if I like this business thing. And lo and behold, that's what I did. I took another business course, and frankly, it just came so intuitive for me. It just made me change my major. So right there, in terms of getting a professional education, I changed my major and then really just started getting the more formal and traditional knowledge and education and learning around finance and in that case, business and that kind of thing. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for giving us that background. So I can see you right now sweeping the school bus. Like, let me get this, get these $2. I done
Sure.
swept the school bus. Let me get paid. So
Yep.
that hustle mentality is really something that you can't teach. And so some people have it, some people don't. And some people have it because they have no other choice, right? It's like, I gotta get out of here because there's no other way for me to bring something home. And so for kids to have that, it's probably a true testament to, who you've actually grown to be, to know that you was trading the bottles in, sweeping the school bus, selling lollipops, right? Either way, you was going to have a little change in your pocket, right? So
Try to anyway, right? Yep.
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
But so let's go to when you were at the Santa Fe Community College, taking this course, because there's students out there that may be in this position, right? And
Mhm.
so what really what drew you in this microeconomics course? What was it? Is it something that did anything just kind of click and like, okay, I really like this?
Yeah, honestly, it was just common sense. Everything they was
Yeah,
teaching, it was just like it was common sense. Economics, I mean, by definition, I guess, the textbook definition of economics is how to allocate your scarce resources, right? But everything that professor was teaching day by day, law of supply, law of demand, it just was common sense. And it didn't take too much really too much real brain work for me, like maybe like calculus did eventually, right?
yeah,
Uh, but because it was so easy in that regard, it made me say I'm just gonna keep going with this. And like I said, I always haven't had a passion and an interest in finance. Getting a formal education to me, it was just making so much sense. I said, this is the easy way I'm gonna go. It was easy for me.
yeah. So it just came to you naturally, is what it sounds like. It was very natural.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely in that
Okay.
regard.
All
Mhm.
right. So you take the course, you go on, you change your major. Now what? Like, how else do you keep developing this?
Sure, sure. So, what am I? Probably like 20 years old, and I'm trying to figure out what's next, where I'm gonna go to school. Am I gonna transfer to the University of Florida, or am I gonna transfer to Florida A&M? I thought I was gonna do University of Florida, but it actually turned out that my brother-in-law at the time was doing an internship with Sharon Plow Pharmaceuticals, and he was getting paid very handsomely for an intern. So frankly, at that point, it became, common sense again. Like I'm just gonna follow the data. Am I gonna go to UF? No knock against UF, love the Gators, go Gators. But am I gonna do the UF route or am I gonna go to Florida A&M where frankly, folks look like me are having success that is just really unprecedented. And I think at that time, fam, you may have been ranked one of the top schools nationally. The business school was getting a lot of props. So again, I just try to follow the data, which I think is really important when you're talking about finances anyway, right? So yeah, that's pretty much what happened. Figured left Santa Fe, didn't go to UF, went to Tallahassee, and just decided to get it on and joined the School of Business. And then subsequently was able to get some internships where I was able to start making money and really put to practice a lot of the stuff I was learning in these books. Into action, working for these companies that I was interning with at the time.
Yeah. Quick shout out to Dr. Sybil Mobley, please.
Hmm.
School of Business, SBI. definitely. I think, around that time, ranked number one business school for sure. So shout out to the School of Business, the SBI folks there. So all this sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
When you go into these companies,
Mm-hmm.
how do you take advantage of these companies from a financial standpoint? Like everybody's going to get a paycheck, but what else were you doing, or what else could other people be doing if they're a part of these corporations and companies that go to work every day? What are some things that they can do there?
Well, I mean, just as an intern, you're making some good money. We were making some good money on these internships at 20 years old. So I won't burden anybody with saying you got to get it right. If you have any interns listening at this point, but definitely I would say after the internships, starting a career, definitely want to do your match, right? In this day and age, you want to understand what this HSA thing is all about, right? Because in addition to getting your match, if the company's matching you, now you could also get this HSA, which will follow you as you move on, if you decide to leave the company. And then still yet again, just being timely, seems like these days, I think companies sooner than later, more and more are going to start giving these interns and these students that are moving into the full-time positions some money to help them with these school loans, right? So I would say overall, you definitely want to have your ears open and really understand that the compensation is not limited to what you're getting every 2 weeks, but you got to really figure out what other ways are you being compensated, and take advantage of that. So I would definitely say for starters, and some combination of all of those things I just mentioned.
Yeah. Okay. Um, any examples of some things that you did? Anything that you did in particular, kind of early on
Sure.
in your career?
Yeah, so I'll share this. Actually, when I started my first job working for a major food company, it was probably a couple years into that I decided to go to grad school. So here I am in grad school. You know what? Maybe not conventional wisdom. And let me say this. Let me preface what I'm about to say by saying this. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't have any of those letters. So I recommend you definitely get professional advice, but I'm just giving you real world what I did and what worked for me. So back to the example, here I was probably 22, 23 years old, uh, getting a paycheck. My wife at the time, or my girlfriend at the time, was with child. Sooner than later, we ended up getting married. So now I have the responsibility of a child, and she was still in school trying to figure that out. But just painting the background for you, um, you know what I did? I'll be honest with you. I was trying to buy a car around this time. I was trying to buy another depreciating asset. And so no credit to me, but Latoya, I walked into a dealership and there was nobody in that dealership but me and another black man. And he said some words to me, but he conveyed the point. He said, "Little brother, you need to go buy a house."
Mhm.
And that is what ended up happening within the next year or two. But to kind of speak to some of those tactics, I'd be remiss if I don't even acknowledge that he didn't leave me with that advice. Within the next day or two, I ended up getting a call from a lender who he had connected me with,
Oh,
right? So it wasn't just go buy a house because I didn't know what to do, but he gave that. And then beyond that, that lender connected me to a realtor. So it just was all falling in my lap.
yeah.
And frankly, I bet you I had a credit score in the 500s at that time, just being real. And I didn't think any of this was gonna happen. I just was actually laughing at the realtor, like, you gonna walk around with me for a whole month or two, huh? And you think something gonna happen. All right, you're gonna be real embarrassed when something goes wrong, just thinking Murphy's Law, something's gonna go wrong. So
Right.
to sum it all up, uh, you know, I'm with this realtor walking around Pine Hills in Orlando, and we looking at houses. But through the conversation and all the training and information he's giving me, he's making me understand sooner than later, you're going to need to come up with the down payment, and you're going to need to come up with the closing costs, which, in my opinion, to digress again, I personally feel that's why people don't buy houses, because they don't have that lump sum of cash,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
gotta pay, you gotta live somewhere, so you always gonna have something for the monthly payment, but
Yeah.
you need that lump sum. So this loops back to me talking about grad school, because here I am in grad school, trying to buy this house. I'm working, and I'm needing this lump sum of money. And the question in my head is, where am I getting it from?
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, going back to grad school, I got school loans. Now, fortunately, the company I was working for at the time, they were giving me 50% of the cost of the grad school tuition. So I didn't really need the loans. But again, this is where, just coming from where I come from, you can't always go with conventional wisdom. I didn't have anybody to go to give me the down payment and the closing
Right.
costs. So I went ahead and took them school loans out, fully knowing I wasn't taking them out to pay for no books. I was going to use this down payment money, along with, excuse me, I was going to lose this loan money along with some 401k money that I had intentionally put in more of a conservative fund so it could be there. And I put that together, and that's how I got the money to buy what would be my wife and I first house at 23 years old.
Wow. So I'm gonna stop you there for a second. So literally, you got a credit score in the 500s,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have, been sent to a lender, to a realtor, all of this, to buy your first home, got hit with all of these things, and then somebody says, you can have it as long as you come up with this large sum of money, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, that is probably one of the main barriers of people buying a house, is you got to put some money down. So for you to say, I'll have it, that's what a lot of people would say, I'll have it, they're going to just keep going. But you were like, hold up, wait a minute. My company's paying half of this.
Yep.
I could apply here and get more, right, in order to put this down. So I love that logic, right? And I love that you kind of put these things together to make it happen for you at such a young age. And you didn't have a lot of things established, right? You
Right.
didn't have things established and that sort of thing. So I appreciate you sharing that example. As the years go on, Norris, as the years go on, how else, what other things were you able to do with corporate money, or, with a job, basically?
Yeah, sure. So, fast forward, uh, I ended up getting a promotion. So I ended up selling that house within the next, not even 2 years, and moved to North Carolina, and had the opportunity, did really good with selling that house, had the opportunity to reinvest in some more property um, in the North Carolina area. Um, but I gotta add that it was a few more years later, while still working for the company I was working for, I had a colleague at the time who introduced me to the concept of a solo 401k. Um, so for your viewers, you can look it up, you can Google it, but basically a solo 401k is self-directed money. Self-directed money is meaning you manage it, right? And the way it would work is, hypothetically, let's say that you were to no longer be working for a company, but you have a 401k here sitting here, or you have a pension, or whatever set of retirement monies you got set aside. The government allows you to take those monies and actually roll them over into a company, assuming you have a company, right? Hell, you could be selling, excuse me, you could be selling t-shirts, right? It could be literally a t-shirt LLC. Um, and bottom line, this money becomes the 401k plan for the company,
For the
right?
t-shirt company.
For the t-shirt company, right? So let me unpack that a little bit,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's really, when I first heard about it, it blew me away, right? But with some research, I ended up learning that, I think it was around 2000, 2001 or two, the government passed legislation to basically address the fact that, you know, a lot of mom and pop and small business companies, one person, two people companies, they need a retirement situation too. So if the case is that they worked for a company, they had a 401k over here, and oh, by the way, they didn't want to necessarily take that money when they left the company and port it to just some, broker house, um, or heck, maybe they work for another company. Maybe they have another W-2. And like a lot of people do, just port that money over to the W-2 company. Instead of that, they can, like I said, take that money and make it a part of their LLC. And what's unique about this entity, the Solo 401k, is it allows you to invest in a lot of different assets that you don't typically get to invest in inside another company's W, excuse me, another company's 401k,
Okay,
right?
okay. So I'm gonna stop you there because we're gonna
All
go
right,
further. But we gotta break this down for the listeners, okay?
all right.
So I'm working for a company. I have my 401k, right? I say I want to move this to and let's say I have a side business, which I do, right? So I'm gonna say, hey, I have an LLC, I have a coaching business, okay, and I want this 401k to be my 401k for my coaching business.
Yep,
But what you're telling me is that I can then do a solo 401k,
yep.
and it could be the now 401k for my coaching business. And that was the 401k that I built with this previous company. And this previous company also contributed to it while I was there, and I was contributing. Am I hearing that correctly?
You said it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So now I'm in my coaching business. I have this 401k that's now attached to my coaching business, my small business, right? What can I do with this money now?
wow. You can invest, first of all, you can invest in stocks, right? Which typically you are limited in a company's 401k, if I'm right, uh, to mutual funds,
Yep.
right? So let's start there. You can actually start buying individual stocks. You
Okay.
can buy Bitcoin if you choose to do that.
Okay.
You can make promissory notes,
Mm.
right? So for example, you can literally go start buying notes. And by that I just mean, let's say you want to start holding mortgages, right?
Okay.
For folks, right? Let's say, for example, there's a house out there, somebody pays $100,000 for a house, and um, they they now have they're paying a bank back that money, right? Because they're not going to pay $100,000 for the house. But you can end up working with a bank. You can end up finding opportunities to say, hey, bank, let me buy that mortgage from you, right? And I will be one-on-one with this person that bought this house, and they're paying you individually,
Right.
right? The monthly payments and the interest that goes on top of that. So that's what
Right.
I mean by a promissory note. In addition to that, you can also make notes to other people, right?
Mm.
Um, and collect interest. Still yet, you can buy real estate, right? You can actually
Oh,
buy real estate inside the 401k, and that's what I chose to do. I went down that path.
wow.
And still, you can do tax liens and tax deeds, and it just goes on and on. But in a nutshell, in summary, you could do a whole lot of things that you would not be able to do if you just take that money from the company you're leaving and decide to put it in another company's 401k plan. And
Right.
when I found that out, I was, again, following the data. I
Yeah.
was sold. Like, yo, this
Listen,
is This is it
Listen,
for me.
you dropping knowledge here for the listeners for sure, because so many times, or just the traditional 401k people, they're thinking, if I leave a company, I gotta roll this over to another account, another Fidelity, whatever broker account, and they gotta manage it over there. And what he's telling y'all, if you're listening, he's saying you can now have more power and make more decisions, and you be in more control of this money now versus waiting until you retire and then then it's in a whole retirement fund, and now
Right.
60 some years old, but you literally today, right, you can move this over. So we talked about all these different ways that you can use this money, and it's totally legal, right? This is all within the realms of the solo 401k. It does have to be connected to your entity, but guess what? You can go out and create your LLC tomorrow, right? You can, like you said, it could be a t-shirt company. You can have a bakery. You could do almost anything. You can have a car detailing company. You can, have a snow cone stand, whatever it is. You have your own LLC, and you can attach it to this LLC. So lots of different things that you can do with this money. We're going to dive into the way Norris decided to use his money as soon as we come back from a break. So we'll be right back. We'll listen to a little bit of music. We'll be right back, y'all. Welcome back to Life Transitions Radio Talk Show with yours truly, Coach Latoya, here on WDRB Media, the voice of the community. This broadcast is being brought to you by My Life Unlearned. Zenitra D. Perry is a strategy consultant with passion for developing a rockstar team who deliver rockstar results. Her expertise in curriculum design and facilitation spans across sales and marketing, leadership development, and change management. You can reach her at zenitrad.com. That is zenitrad.com. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome back. We are jumping back into this conversation with Norris Wright. And we just talked about this solo 401k and how this is not, only for folks that have a whole bunch of money. This is, if you are just working a regular job, you have a 401k, you can do this. Okay. This is not outside of the limits for anyone. So we left by telling you all of the things that you can do and potentially do with this money. Norris, can you give us some examples of what you did and share with our listeners some things that you did with your solo 401k?
Sure. So, as I mentioned, I think I mentioned just briefly that I ended up deciding to go the real estate route, right? So what that looked like is after setting up the solo 401k, and let me say this too, if I may just digress real fast, you have to have a custodian, right? Someone who the government is holding accountable from a fiduciary standpoint to make sure you're not playing games. Because at the end, you still got to file your taxes, aside from your regular W-2 taxes, to say to the government, the IRS, I'm not playing games here, right? So for me, no advertisement for them, but the fact is, my solo 401k, that's the name of the company that helped me out. They were very helpful. Only charged me like $125 a year to be my fiduciary. And they had a host of information on their website, and will, help you call wise. So that all to say, you can.
What's that website? Give it to them and for the people.
I believe it's mysolo401k.com.
Okay.
Right?
My solo 401k. Okay.
My solo 401k. So yeah, so just want to establish that. So going back to me, once I set it up, I had my company set up, right? So I do my little consulting thing. That's the company I have. The next step was really to find lenders, right?
Okay.
That would loan money, not to me, but to the solo 401k trust, because that's what it is. And it's important to really, make this point that it's not you. it's the Soul 401k it's a trust. It's a revocable trust, really, right? And it's
Yep.
called Soul 401k. But my job became, okay, let's say, for example, just for numbers sake, let's say I had $50,000 in the 401k and I wanted to go find a bank that would help me to access leverage. Just like if you are trying to buy a house, you're gonna put down 3%, 10%, whatever, 20%. You need a bank to give you the difference to buy the house.
Right.
Well, in the
Right.
case of the 401k, I had to go find a partner to give leverage to the 401k. So
Okay.
that really was my next step.
Okay.
And going forward, I was able to find a broker who was able to find me a bank to do this. And not every bank can do this. You go talking Soul 401k to your average bank, they're not even going to know what you're talking about, right? So that's
Okay.
where, again, getting to that my Soul 401k support really did help out.
Okay.
So I got the leverage, got access to leverage, and then from there it was just like finding property. I needed a realtor, right?
Okay.
And I personally worked with a realtor in the Piedmont Triad of North Carolina area. I had lived there for like 10 years. So I was very comfortable with that market.
Yeah.
And I just went shopping for property. And fortunately, I was able to, and I think it was 2020, find a couple duplexes in the High Point area.
Mm.
And that was the first uh, acquisition that I made
Okay.
uh, through the Soul 401k. So I was able to find that bank again, through that broker, gave that broker his fee, and signed the paperwork I had to sign, and um, everything just worked just like a regular investment.
Okay,
But
hold on now. So we're talking about you bought a house with your solo 401k. They didn't run your credit. They didn't,
uh,
this is all in that name. Are you serious?
Dead serious. But let me say this too, because there's some asterisks to some of this, right? Just because again, it's not me,
Right.
right? It's the trust. Again, you doing your research, you'll learn all this. But one, I can never live in those homes, right? My kids can never live in those homes, right? All the money that goes to fix anything for those properties has to come not out of my pocket, but out of the Soul 401k. And similarly, all of the money that goes, so the rent checks, it can't go into my pocket. It has to go into the trust. If I violate, if I breach any of that, the government will treat it like a distribution, and now I'm going to get hit with all
Taxes.
sorts of penalties. So I just want
Yeah.
to be real clear there, so I'm not setting anybody up for any trouble.
No.
You got to do your research. But yes, to answer your question, uh, that is pretty much what happened.
But what you're saying is, for especially think about people that are out there that want to have investment properties, but
Right,
they're trying to do it with their money.
right,
So what you're saying is like, hey, I used my 401k, transferred over to my solo 401k, and that became my side hustle realtor company that's now building that trust fund even more
yeah,
than where it started. So those rent checks are now going into that fund, right? And
right.
and if something happens at the house, right, I'm not repairing it. I got to worry about, oh my goodness, it's coming out of my paycheck. No,
Right.
it's coming out of that. So
Correct.
what a really cool way to not only be in control of the money, right? So now you're controlling it. You have investment properties that you can now manage and control and grow this fund, right? Now you're growing
Right.
it probably much more substantially than your 5% contribution every paycheck, right? Or whatever the bank,
That's true.
right?
That's been my experience. And
Okay.
if I could chime in, I want to really highlight a point you keep highlighting, and I think you can't say it enough, and that is that you're really empowering yourself to take responsibility and do some powerful things with your own money. And I mean, we go to work for people for these companies and use the same mental faculties, right, to run businesses, right, and drive P&Ls and do all sorts of fantastic things that at the end of some business year, we're trying to come up with a business case why we should get this much of a raise. But we don't even take these chances on ourselves. And I just think again, you hit on a really good point that moving this money around like this, it's really going to give you an opportunity to use the same intelligence, all that intellectual capital that you've been using to make money for other people, but for yourself. So as long as you're willing to take the risk and educate yourself, I'll say that again, do your research. And you make good decisions, you'll do really well. And on top of that, you're still talking pre-tax dollars,
Yeah.
right? So this money is growing on top of itself. And then as it comes in, you could turn around and say, I'm just not going to let this money sit in cash. I can go now and, put it in new assets, go buy more stock, right? So it becomes a snowball sort of
Yeah.
effect. And there's no mandatory distribution of this money till you're 72 years old. So imagine what you can accumulate, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but so one, definitely thank you for pointing these things out, and repeating yourself when we're talking about the penalties of withdrawing, and also understanding that this is still giving you a lot of power and control over your money, versus just kind of letting it sit there like the average person and contributing your 3 to 5% and getting the company match, right? So let me ask you this. You chose real estate as the route, right? You bought that first house there, right? And, as the investment property, where did you go from there? Did you continue with real estate? Have you dabbled in other things?
Sure. I've done some promissory notes, right? So I
Okay.
invest in notes as well. I've continued real estate. I've picked up some more property in North Carolina, and I've also picked up more property in Florida,
Okay.
specifically some vacant land that again I don't own, but the solo 401k trust does. And again, per the tax code, the government says it's okay for me to develop that land, right, inside the trust. So I can, and I'm planning to do some builds, particularly in the North Central Florida market, right, in the trust. And gonna find some leverage, somebody to loan money to the trust, and just keep doing it, and just keep building and building. And yep, so
So
I'm definitely still in the real estate space
yeah.
in terms of how
So
I'm leveraging the trust.
all right, let me ask you this. So you bought the first one, you then go on to buy more investment properties in North Carolina, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Same process, right? Again.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So you're using that rent money. So that rent money is still contributing to the trust, right?
Fortunately, yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then now you're saying, okay, I'm going to invest in some land to
Mm-hmm.
develop properties.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So now you're talking about new construction. You're buying that. So you're finding a lender to lend you money or lend the trust some money
Right.
to buy the land through the trust and develop the land.
Right. Right. Now, let me say this, full transparency. I actually also have some land outside of the trust in Florida, and I'm actually a work in progress of at trying to do a building my first like build to rent.
Okay.
So I'm not at a point yet where I've started to access leverage or lending support to build land, but all the fine print and laws say absolutely I could find someone who will loan me the money and I can do the build. And just so long as I believe the government doesn't want you, because the goal is to grow this thing. They want you to grow this thing and keep investing. So the as long as I'm not flipping houses, I want to say that too, right? I've learned enough that they don't want you doing that either, right? So hypothetically, once I get going with building this vacant land in the trust, I'm going to build these homes, right? That's the hope and goal. and then I'm going to rent them.
Yeah.
But the trust entity will own them.
Got it.
And yeah, so
Got it.
that's the plan. Mhm.
Okay. And then you say you dibbled a little bit in the promissory note as well.
Yep.
How did that go?
Oh, that's going well. That's
Okay.
going well. I mean, it literally, I will. Um, I've been able to help businesses, some small businesses, that need lending. You know, a lot of people are doing that, right? I think you can do micro lending, crowdfunding, and things like that, right? It's just that for me, um, I'm able to leverage this trust entity and say, hey, so and so, you need X amount of dollars. Here's this promissory note. Let's fill this out. How are we collateralizing this, right? And then literally, here's the amortization schedule broken down on a spreadsheet. Because again, I got to go back to my fiduciary and
Yeah.
communicate. Hey, this is what I'm doing, right? And make sure it's all good. But it's usually no problem. If anything, they're saying, hey, you need to charge them a higher interest rate,
Oh.
right? That kind of thing. So that's cool, because a lot of the times I'm lending money to small businesses or folks who might have a challenge when it comes to getting conventional financing. So it's
Yeah.
cool to see how I can help someone, and they go on to maybe buy their first home, or
Right.
go on to start their first business. And
Right.
I've actually done both of those
Okay.
activities before.
Now I do
Mhm.
have to ask you this, and you can tell
Mhm.
me, you don't want to answer it. But from the time you created your solo 401k
Mhm.
to today, percentage wise, how much has it grown?
Sure, sure. I was actually looking at that the other day, and it has grown. I think I got a compounded annual growth rate overall at like 10%.
Okay.
But let me say this too, because that 10% includes a lot of losses I've taken.
Mm.
Because I've taken some of the 401k money and said, let me go buy this stock, or let me go buy this stock, right? The real estate hasn't lost me anything. The,
Okay.
the the losses, right, were traditional investments. Me invested in somebody else's business,
which
right?
which is likely what most people invest in, right? That's where the losses
Right,
are. So what you're
right.
saying is that typically the company is investing your money in these traditional ways,
Yeah,
and maybe you don't have the best return, but what you're
right.
saying is, since you started and since you ventured off into the real estate part, you've been profitable. That has
Yeah,
turned a profit.
it has. It has. Mhm.
I like it. I like it. Okay. So I really want to be sure that the listeners understand that this is all possible.
Mhm,
This is all
absolutely.
possible. You could have, $100 in your bank account. This has
Mhm.
nothing to do with you and your personal stuff, right? This has everything to do with you just learning and knowing what your options are with this, 401k. So, because everybody goes out and it's like, when you're growing up, it's like, oh, go get a job. Go, everybody go get a job. Go get you a good job, right? Oh, get you a good one. Um, and so lots of people have 401ks, but they do nothing with it. Even people that switch jobs, they just roll it over to the next job or to the next one, right? And they're just not aware. So my goal here today was really just to expose my listeners, and anyone that's interested or may even have a thought about being in more control of your own retirement plan, right? And not, depending on your company and that small percentage that you're putting in every paycheck um, to return something for you. And then in the meantime, you've been able to help some people along the way, right?
Absolutely.
Because of that.
Absolutely.
That's not something you would have done with your regular paycheck, right? You wouldn't have been able to go in there and say, hey, I'm going to lend you this money.
Mhm.
And so that's also important. So before we get out of here, Norris, I want to give you the opportunity. Is there anything else you want to share? Any tips you want to give them? I mean, this has been great with you just being vulnerable and transparent and sharing with us the things that your experience is, but anything else you want to share?
Yeah, I'll just reinforce again. Thanks for the opportunity, Latoya. But bet on yourself. Going back to being that 20-something-year-old young man some 20 odd years ago, and listening to the different financial gurus who tell you you shouldn't try to buy a house till you have this and that. They are well intentioned and really trying to help people for the long term. But if you're anything like me and you cut from a different cloth in terms of not having the wherewithal to buy a house when you have 20%, man, bet on yourself, right?
Yeah.
However you get to it, just do it legally, right? Of course. Because I think if I connect what I did in my early 20s to how I leverage the solo 401k today, my observation is it's been very non-conventional,
Mm,
right? Some people might even disagree and think it's risk taking.
mm-hmm.
Um, but I think at the end of the day, again, the same intelligence you're using to make everybody else money,
Come
bet
on.
on yourself.
Come
The
on.
second thing I'll share is the business that I actually operate that the Soul 401k is connected to is a LLC called Strategy and Context Consulting. And, the first 15, 16 years of my career, I spent driving people development, business development, and organizational development for a great organization. And today I still make myself available to consult if anybody is interested or knows entities that are interested in that support. And still, finally, I probably have more fun doing under the strategy and context consulting banner, the work that I do specific to developing children, working with children. I spent a couple years in the classroom as a teacher, and I'm not in the classroom anymore, but I still continue to teach the things I taught as a business tech teacher, right? So everything from like the financial literacy we're talking about, but at a much younger level, of course, to digital literacy, right? To career pathing, um, all of that. So that's what I do at Strategy and Context. You can reach me at info at strategy and context consult. Well, it's info at strategy and context LLC.com, right? Just getting my Facebook page is going, my Instagram stuff going. But if there are any questions or I could be a resource to you or your children or anybody else, please let me know. And again, I thank you, Latoya, for the opportunity and salute to all the great work you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. And y'all reach out for sure. I mean, he's offering these services. He can teach you a lot. Believe me, I have been gaining and learning from Norris for a long
Goes both ways. It goes both
time.
ways for sure.
For a
Mhm.
long time, wealth of knowledge, wealth of information. Before we go, though, I do want to say that I will ask you and let you know, or you may already know this, but I think I looked it up beforehand, but the average amount that people hold in their 401k, or just the average amount that most people have, is over $100,000. Is average. So you're talking about over 100 grand is the average amount of
Do
the
something with that.
balance in a 401k. So just think about what you could do with 100 grand, right, in a solo 401k with investments, right, with real estate, with stocks or Bitcoin or promissory notes, right? So I meant to mention that earlier, but that's a good amount of money, right?
Oh yeah, because that 100 could become 300, right? Think
Exactly.
of it that way in terms of what you're able to borrow. Right? Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. You're buying properties now for 300,000 or more. Um,
Yep.
right? Because you're getting leverage on that 100.
Yeah, yeah. So I just wanted to drop that in because I think it's important for people to understand that you got it out there. It's sitting there. You got it, right? You have it there.
Right.
So, do your research, like he said, right? We want to do our research. We don't want to break any laws and read the
Mhm.
fine print. Get you a fiduciary, get you somebody that's gonna be in your corner, that's gonna help you with it. And then reach out to Norris Wright because he is offering this. He's done this, and this is not new for him. He's been doing this for years. So this is something that he has a lot of experience with and could definitely give you some suggestions and that sort of thing. He already put the disclaimer out there that he is not a financial coach. He's not a financial advisor. He's going to tell you what he knows. He's going to give you some resources where you can find those things and those people.
Absolutely.
For sure. So definitely reach out. But again, Norris, thank you so much for coming on to the show. Thank you for sharing your experiences and that sort of thing. So definitely appreciate that.
Thank you.
And appreciate you sharing with our listeners. Hopefully you guys got something out of this. Again, happy Father's Day to all of our fathers out there. You guys, I hope you're enjoying your summer. We are halfway through June. Don't forget, a few shows ago, we talked about creating those goals. Where are you in your goals, right? We were started at June 1st. We're going to September 1st, right? So let's make sure that we have our goals set. Maybe now you want to add something in there about your solo 401k that you want to achieve by September 1st. It could easily just be, I want to just have a conversation. I want to just do some research and learn more about it. All right. So whatever you set to get to September 1st, check yourself. Where are you? What do you need to do? What haven't you done, right? In order to get there. Because remember, we want to make some change. We want to be sure we're progressing and transitioning, right? And we don't want to use the summer just to have a good time. We want to be sure that we're transitioning. So again, get those goals together. And we'll talk about them later on in September. But thanks again for joining us. And y'all have a good rest of your Saturday.